We have so much to talk about in today's video. When I did the top 20 product review, like the top 20 most popular Seint products from January, I mentioned that they also give us a top 10 eyeshadow list, and it was requested that we do a video on that. So today we are going to cover that. But today is March 17th. That's the day that I'm filming this, and today is the day of Seint's release of the pressed pigments. Now, if you are somebody who follows me over on IG or Facebook, or you follow Seint artists, you know that they have released this beautiful palette of 19 shades of highly saturated pigments. Mine are lost in the mail. It is said that they are arriving tomorrow on the 18th. So as soon as they arrive, I will be sure to get a video filmed with all of the different ways that you can wear them, whether it just be, a more saturated eyeshadow or an eyeliner. They can be used as lip products. They can even be used as cheek products to set your blush if you're somebody who's looking for better longevity from your blush. So many good ideas. I can't wait to play with those, but I did want to acknowledge that was my plan for the video last week and then again this week, and we've been deterred. So today we're gonna talk about the top 10 eyeshadows. Before we jump into eyeshadow, I wanted to share with you guys, this is the Milk Hydro Skin Tint. I saw this going bananas on the internet and I was like, I need to give this a try because it's about to be spring and summer. So I don't know about you, but I don't always like to wear a full face of highlights. Sometimes I like to do even a tinted sunscreen or something like that and then use my Seint products on top. And I had to grab this one right away because it's silicone free. That is the key to using your Seint makeup on top of any sunscreen, tinted moisturizer, tinted skin tint, even other foundations. As long as your products are silicone free, then you can use your Seint products on top. So I will link everything we talk about, including this, below in the description. So if you're in the market for a hydrating skin tint, this one does a really nice job of giving a light and lightweight coverage feeling, while it definitely blurs out some of the discoloration that I have, and it is buildable. I would say buildable to like light to medium. See, I have a blemish over here and it covered the redness of it, but it is starting to scab. So whether it's this or Seint or whatever it is, if your blemishes start to scab, you're going to see them through. But overall, I think this is a great product. I've tried it numerous times. It works great under your Seint makeup. Let's talk about these 10 most popular eyeshadows. There is a theme. They are the easy neutrals, and most of these actually lean neutral cool. So we are void of a lot of warmth in this palette. However, it does not surprise me that these are the top 10 most popular shades. These are shades that I recommend to a lot of people as they're getting started building their collection because they're dual purpose. You can do a lot with them. Most of them make great one shadow eye shades. They also have some shades down here for carving out the eye. So let me show you. I've swatched them all on the arm, and then we're going to talk about where you typically put these on the lid and where there is some room for maybe more creativity or excitement or new ways to think about eyeshadows based on kind of the larger collection that we have. So let's get started. So right here at the top, we have Cupcake, which is a matte. We have Sabrina, and then we have Drift, and you'll see that these two are very, very similar. Of the two, my favorite is Drift, just because it provides a little bit more of that champagne punch. It's a little bit easier to see. Then we move into some of our crease shades. When we're creating an eye look, how I teach people, how it was taught to me to create an eye look is to think of light and shadow. Just the way we do on our face with highlight and contour, we wanna think of the same concept for our eyes. So when it comes to what is the first thing I do with my eyeshadow, it's you want to carve out the crease of the eye just to give the eye some shape and definition. And some of our most popular shades for doing that are right here. So here we have Pup, then we have Chai, and then Basic. Another one of these that's really, really good for that and is super popular, and one of the first ones that I picked out was Lullaby. And it's this mauvey brown, has a little bit of an undertone of purple. In between that, you're gonna see this is Mama. Mama is going to look a little bit lighter on the eye because you don't typically wear something at the same like opacity that you do a swatch. So these are gonna be a tinge darker that they're gonna look on the eye. So Pup and Mama are both okay for carving out the eye if you are very fair toned. However, this one will be a very, very subtle carve out. This one might be hard to see and might be better served as a one shadow shade, including putting it on the lid. Now, when you're talking about building an eye, the first thing you do, like we talked about, is carve out that crease. And there are a plethora of shades that you can do that with. Then we think about what goes on the lid. So typically speaking, when I'm looking here at what goes on the lid, we are void of a lot of options. Yes, we could do mama. Yes, we could do pup. Yes, we could do any of these, the same shades that we carve out our crease. We could just throw them on the lid and we could be done. We could even do these right here and get just a little bit of light, but really to carve out that eye with one of these mid-tone mattes and then place something just a tinge bolder and brighter and more vibrant on the lid, that is going to give you a really beautiful eye look because you're going to have more deviation between the colors. It's going to pop a little bit more, and I'll show you some of that range as well. The only one that is on the top 10 that is in there is this one right here that is Soulmate, and this is the first shimmer that I bought. So I feel like maybe a Seint artist, we're showing a lot of the same shades for ease of use and like really simple pairings when there's so many other options out there. And then we have our deep, deep dark shade. And this one is Coco. It is your brown, like your standard carve out that outer corner of the eye to create more depth and dimension when you're using maybe more than 2 colors on the lid. So if I were to create an eye look from here, and we could certainly do that, this is the order in which I would go. I would choose one of these guys to carve out the crease. Then I would use Soulmate on the lid. I could use Mama, I could use one of these, but they're going to be very, very, very subtle. Then my third application would be this bolder shade, this deeper tone in the outer corner. And then I would use these guys, Cupcake, Sabrina, or Drift, under the brow or on the tear duct to really complete that look and give a vibrant, open looking eye, especially if you're somebody who has a hooded eye, which I have both a deep set and a hooded eye. So you'll see most of my lid is gone. So I like to use at minimum 2 shades, but I do really benefit from taking that 2 shade look up to a 3 or a 4 shade look, just so you can see the deviation of color on my lid. Before we jump into using these shades to create an eye look, would it be a benefit to you guys if I took our Seint eyeshadows and created kind of a user guide? Now, eyeshadow is preference for sure, and many of these shades can be used in a multitude of ways, but overall I could give them a number, like what is the first shade I apply? So let's take a look here. These shades right here are your mid-tone matte shades, which go along with these guys right here. That is the first shade that I always apply to carve out my crease and to create some definition of the eye. So that would be like, I apply that first. Then you get into your lid shades. These right here are going to be more of your lid shades. These are going to be a little bit brighter. There's going to be a little bit of contrast between these guys. That's where you would find your Soulmate and your Mama, just so that we have now more of an eye look. With a maturing eye, we carve out the eye first, but then we put something on the lid that's really going to pop, that's going to draw attention. So something that either has a little bit of brightness to it, something that has some contrast to your mid-tone matte shade, or you can go into these shades right here. Everything's in reverse on camera. These shades right here, which are also beautiful on the lid when you have a nice carved out crease. So many of these shades, like these ones right in here, can definitely be worn on the lid and create a beautiful eye look. Or if you did something really light on the lid, you could pop these into the outer corner. Now the ones on the outside are definitely more of your shade that would be comparable to Coco. So that would be the third shade that I would apply. And then we have our Drift, Sabrina, and Cupcake to go along with the few shades that are left up here, which I would consider those best used under the brow and in the tear duct. So if you'd like me to create some sort of guide that helps you kind of make decisions on placement, at least as a starting point, like you could do whatever you want with eyeshadow. But for me, it got more simple when I understood, okay, go in this order, carve out the crease with a mid-tone matte. And the reason that we do that with a mid-tone matte shade, okay, matte versus shimmer, is our hood tends to be heavier as we age. And when we're talking about contour and highlight, just like light and dark on the lid, we want to put something that is matte on in this crease and up onto the base of the hood, so that it recedes. Then if we put something light and bright or something shimmery on that lid, the shimmer will reflect the light and our lid will pop forward. So now we've made the hood appear smaller and more receded. Is receded a word? And then we've made our lid pop. So now our eyes look bigger and we can see some deviation in our eyeshadow shades. So if something like that would be helpful to you, you let me know. Let's create an eye look with our top 10 shades. We are gonna start, as we've discussed, with a mid-tone matte in that crease and up onto the base of the hood. And I'm actually gonna halo this under the eye as well, just to create a little more definition, but also to help set anything underneath the eye so we don't have smudging and smearing and things like that. When I look at these shades, the easiest to use mid-tone mattes that are gonna show on fair to medium skin tones are gonna be Basic, Chai, and Lullaby. Very popular shades. So let's go easy here. Basic, I'm gonna twirl my eyeshadow brush in, and now here's the key. When you have a hooded eye, when you have a deep set eye, do this initial application with your eye open. Because after I do this, do you see my crease is right here? I wanna go above, so I'm holding my brush low. Now if I tilt my head back a little bit, now I can wiggle that into the crease itself, but I can see it when I look forward. So first step, get that onto the hood. Now I'm windshield wipering. I can tilt if I want a little bit just to make sure. I do want it in the crease, but I don't want it only in the crease. I want to be able to see it when my eye is open. Take a little bit more, tap off the excess so I don't, if you don't tap off your excess and you go like this on your eye, you're gonna have a bunch of chunk deposit right there. I've done that many a times. Now let's go ahead and put that in the outer corner. When we're looking to use this first mid-tone matte shade, we're just carving out the eye. This is like creating the shadow. It's not even supposed to be noticeable. Many people refer to it as the transition shade. So we're gonna use this to build the eye look, carving out that eye. I'm gonna take the smaller end. I love it when I'm halfway through my video and my phone stops and says that my iPhone storage is full. So I'm trying to remember the last thing I said, and I think it was that we are going to halo underneath our eye with that shade Basic. So we're taking that mid-tone matte, it was in the crease, up onto the hood, in the outer corner, and it's our shade that we are going to use in lieu of bottom eyeliner. And now we have a little bit of shadow. We've created the dimension on the eye. So now we can go into step 2, which is the lid shade. As we're talking about lid shade, I went and did this eye with Basic, and I thought we could go 2 very different ways and do 2 different eye looks, because why not? So on this eye, let's just take Mama, which is that soft, you see how soft of a baby pink that is? And let's just tap that on the eye. See what I mean about it being, like it looks like it's going to be more pigmented than it is. So generally speaking, this would be a tough shade to carve out the eye with. It really wouldn't give it a lot of depth and dimension. But you could do that very soft eye look where now you just have Basic, we're just blending, no harsh lines. I didn't add anything to the brush. So we have Basic and Mama on this side, and then we could build it up a little bit more with, let me show you. Let's take, nope, that would be confusing. Hold thought, go back. Let's take Soulmate. So this is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about creating more of an eye look. Now I'm pressing this one. This is Soulmate, this shade down here, one of my favorites, onto the lid. And now we're gonna have more of that shadow versus light. And we're gonna have more of a vibrant looking eye, more of a bold, if you will, while this is certainly not bold in like college Sami bold. I'm gonna take Basic. I did add a little bit just to get a good blend. But now you'll see both Soulmate and Mama can be used on the eyes. I don't have a small mirror here, so if this is not perfect, don't hate on me, but this is the best that I could see with 40-year-old vision in the teeny tiny part of my iPhone. So we have Basic with Mama, and now we have more of light and shadow contrast, where right here, we are all matte. Totally a preference thing. And we had some Soulmate on our fingers, now we have some shimmer on our forehead. That's just how my day is going. So let's talk about what we would do next, because you could be done, mascara and done. Step 1, carve out. Step 2, on the lid. But if you wanted to take it up a notch, we could go to step 3, which is going to be to create some of that depth in the outer corner and now create more of that upturned look, and it's going to start to get a little bit more nuanced. What are we going to do? I'm so glad you asked. First off, I'm going to clean off my brush on the brush cleaning tile. Highly recommend. We sell them in half tins or full. Love having this in the palette. It makes 1 to 2 brushes like all you ever need. So now let's talk about this eye. Since we've gone very subtle, I'm actually going to take Lullaby. This makes a great mid-tone matte shade as well. So that could be a step 1 shade. But I'm going to add a little bit of this to the outer corner. And I'm just tapping it on, kind of getting up in to that crease and pressing on. Now this is more of the subtle look. We're almost creating like a 7. Crease and down. Now, because I have a hooded eye, I want to make sure that I blend circular motion inward, a little bit up onto that hood, but I need to kind of lift my brow because I want to get into the creases and crevices of my eye. So now do you see just how we have a little bit more of that almond upturned look, even versus this right here? You can see the difference just by adding that 3rd shade. For the sake of this side of the eye, since we have that more bold shimmer Soulmate shade, this would be the perfect opportunity to use Coco. Now with it being highly saturated, right? It is a much darker shade. I'm going to tap the side of my brush into the product, tap off the excess. It is always easier to add than it is to subtract on the eye. So that started out pretty subtle. We're doing that 7, crease, down, making sure I wiggle it in where I have creases and crevices. And now you see how we're starting to build that up. Let me get the excess off there. And now I'm going to lift my brow a little bit just for the sake of making sure it's in my wrinkles. And we're circling inward. The key to any good eye look is the blend. You don't want to be able to tell where one shade starts and the other one stops. You just want it to kind of all flow together. So now we have just that soft, all matte, and a little bit more of a statement look over here. This is the perfect time to go back into your mid-tone matte shade, take the fluffy end, and carve out the crease again. Now we're using this as a true transition shade. It's making sure that we're transitioning from one color to the next without even being able to really see where one stops and one starts. No harsh edges. Okay, let's take a look. Again, not exactly sure what this looks like without looking in a mirror, but I'm going to trust that it looks great. Now, what would we do as a step 4? Step 4 would be our light and bright, like those truly very, very sheer pop of color. If you like matte, you could go with Cupcake. If you prefer something with a little bit of a reflective quality, you could go Sabrina or Drift. Again, Drift being my personal favorite because it just has a little bit of that underlying like champagne shimmer, where this one is definitely more neutral. Not right, not wrong, just preference, right? So let's make sure that our brush is cleaned off. I'm gonna go into Drift, tap that right on there. And now on this side, we'll do Drift. We'll do Cupcake on the other side. See if you can tell the difference in kind of the reflectiveness, if you will. Now this is gonna create the illusion that my brow is more lifted, which I'm here for. And I like to put this right on the tear duct. This is a very textured area for me. So you'll see sometimes people kind of go underneath, give it a whirl, see what your thoughts are. But for me, anything that textured that reflects light, that's a no-no. I don't want my under eye texture appearing more textured. Let's clean this off and we'll tap into our matte shade, which is Cupcake. I feel like you can see, at least I can, the difference between matte and something with a little bit of that shimmer. So I'm kind of glad we did these two different eye looks. Who knew? Okay, press this on here. Now, if you want to open up, do you see how just that little bit of light like pops that eye open? You can go a step further and go into this little like crevice here. Just dragging a little bit of what was left on the brush with my cupcake. And do you see now how we have a even more open eye? Let's do the same thing here with our drift. There's nothing here on my eye except I did have my primer, my eyeshadow primer, and I set my, with a powder. But now we've created a 4-shade eyeshadow look using several of the Seint top 10s. I think these are great choices for starters for like anybody. You can create so many different looks out of here, whether you're using this as a mid-tone matte, whether you're using it as an outer corner shade with some of these lighter colors. Your options are going to be endless. However, you should definitely take a look at some of the other shades that are on the website and start to pair them together. If you need help with pairings, let me know. Again, if you would like to see that list of like the different numbers, like this would be where I would put my first shade on my eye. This is where I'd put my second shade and pair them with the colors that we have. Let me know. I'm happy to do that. Let me throw on some mascara and we'll be right back. If you do not have one of these eyelash brushes, these work so stinking well for lower lash mascara. Definitely use a tubing mascara. You don't want smudging and running. But this works so amazing. It's like effortless. And I never have like thick, spidery looking lashes, yet I still have that additional definition. So anyways, I've been loving this. I used to have one of these when I was younger in my makeup girly days. And now they brought one to Seint and I was like, what have I been missing? So anyways, that's it, you guys. I'm hoping next week when I'm back at ya, it is with a video on Seint's pressed pigments. But if it's not, we'll find something else fun to do. So I hope you guys found this video helpful. As always, please, comments, questions, anything I can be helpful with, let me know. You'll find everything from today in the description. And if you felt that this video was helpful, I would love for you to give it a little like. I would love if you would subscribe and hang out with me on a weekly basis. And that also helps my channel grow and helps us get more people into this fun little 40+ beauty family we have going on here. So as always, thank you guys so much for being here and we'll see you next week.